here we go. Kyle
right.
says, I remember an episode some time ago where yourself and Charles brought up the Christmas classic, quote, "It's the most wonderful time of the year."
It's the most yes.
Particularly the line referring to scary ghost stories.
and tales of the glories. I remember Kyle's question, yeah.
Yeah, does Charles have a good, scary Christmas ghost story to share with us?
Well, all right. You ready?
Ready.
Well, I'll tell you. You know that I was born in New York City, and that we lived there and in Westchester County, in Mount Kisco. And that's where I spent my first few Christmases. Now, I loved Christmas in Westchester. You know, the snow and the lights and Santa and all that sort of thing. But above all, I loved on Christmas when my grandfather would come, my mother's father. This was it was just wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And as it happened, he would always bring really good toys. So, unfortunately, when I was about 6, we moved out to California. And I was miserable. Halloween came, and it wasn't like Halloween back home.
Mm.
Winter came, what winter? And Christmas was going to be just miserable. But then Grandpa said he was coming out. Well, I was very excited. Now, I had let him know that I wanted a Fort Apache playset, which was put out by the Louis Marx Company, nothing to do with Marxism. And it was, you know, a fort and Indians and frontiersmen and animals, and it was great stuff. And I really wanted that. I mean, that was the hot thing that year. I wanted a Fort Apache playset. It was it. So, Grandpa was supposed to arrive the evening of Christmas Eve. Well, 7 o'clock came, 8 o'clock. It was getting later. Now, in our house, we would get the Christmas tree on Christmas Eve. We had brought it back. And the tradition was I'd go to bed, and then when I woke up, the tree was decorated. That was the general thing. Well, Dad looks at the watch and he says, "You better go to bed. Your grandpa will be here sooner or later, and we don't want everybody to run into Santa," whom I still believed in at that time.
Okay.
"So we don't want you running into Santa." I said, "All right." And I went to bed. And he said, "You know, we'll send your grandpa into you when he arrives." I said, "Great." So I go to bed. I fall asleep. You know, visions of sugar plums dancing in my head and all that stuff. And what should happen? But that, sure enough, I'm woken out of sleep by my grandfather. And I was just absolutely excited. Here he was in California. Unbelievable to me. So he said, "You know, I think that Santa Claus beat me here." I said, "Really? Well, let's go downstairs and see." So I went downstairs, and there was the tree all decorated and lit. And there was the Fort Apache playset, entirely assembled. You know, not in the box was nowhere to be seen.
Yeah.
And the thing had been entirely assembled. The Indians were around, and Grandpa looks at it, and he was smoking his pipe. And he says, "Oh, you see, I think he's been here already. It's amazing." "I didn't see anything on the way in," he said. "I said, Slay, I didn't see anything. But look at this." And I said, "Oh." So the two of us, you know, got down on our knees. And the great thing about him was that he could play like that, you know, like a boy. He was very dignified normally, but, you know, this kind of thing, it was a lot of fun. So after a little while, he says, "Well, I think you should probably go back to bed now. It wouldn't be good, you know, for your parents to see us playing like this." And he put his pipe down on the mantelpiece, and he gave me a big hug. And then he said, I said, "Well, I'll see you tomorrow morning, right?" He said, "I may not be here." So I said, "All right." So I ran upstairs. I didn't quite understand what he meant, but I went to sleep. My dad wakes me up. And I said, Dad, Grandpa was here, and Santa, and we had the Fort Apache playset, and we were paying it. He says, "Stop it. Stop it." And I couldn't understand what he was yelling at me on Christmas Day. It was very unlike my dad. And I said, "What is it?" He said, "Just stop lying." So what do you mean? "Your grandpa's not coming. He's dead." I said, "What do you mean? He's dead?" He had an accident on the way here, apparently. And he's dead. Just stop it. I said, Dad, I'm telling you, he was here. We went downstairs, and sure enough, it was the place that all set out. And there on the mantelpiece was Grandpa's pipe, which I have to this day and bring out every Christmas Eve. Smoke, one time a year. Well, I found out later that there was a bit of a mystery with my grandfather's death. The car was twisted. He'd gone off and I guess in the fog, he'd gone off the freeway into the ditch and died. The car did not explode, but they found in the trunk of the mangled rental car an empty Fort Apache playset box. That's not true, by the way. None of it happened.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't say it was going to be true.
Oh my gosh. I can't believe you just toyed with me in that way. I thought you even got teary.
Yeah. A good storyteller.
Oh my
gets into the
gosh.
story.
I can't believe you did that. I feel like you cheated me or something.
It's a Christmas ghost story. They're not all true.
Oh my gosh. That was almost like the greatest real life story in the history of the world.
Well, then you would have heard about it long ago.
That's what I was ready to tell you. It's I can't believe I've never heard of this story.
Oh, well, you would have. It really happened? Oh, gosh, yes.
Oh, my gosh.
Listen, if that had really happened, that would have been like one of the formative things of my life. You've seen me on Christmas Eves. I would have brought out Grandpa's pipe and told that story.
Oh, my gosh.
When you were like 4.
That's unbelievable, Charles. I can't. You had me like on every syllable.
It's a good story, though, isn't it?
It was an amazing story.
That's the story. It's a Christmas ghost story.
Unbelievable.
It's a Christmas ghost story.
Oh, God.
Like, look. All right, stop. Do you think when Charles Dickens first told A Christmas Carol that it was true?
No.
Okay.
That's different.
No, it's not. It's a Christmas ghost story. He wanted me to tell a Christmas ghost story. I told one. The fact that I made it up is beside the point.
Oh, man.
I didn't say it was true. Did you hear me say this is a true story when I started? Like the experience I had with my cousins in the apartment, that happened.
Yeah. But I only heard that a few years ago, too. And I only heard that a few years ago. So that's why, with me, that this was within the realm of possibility, because I've also heard other crazy stories only recently.
Let's see the story with because crazy things have happened. But that story, I made up about 3 years ago for the Breakfast Club Christmas party. It's true. And I got to tell you, they had the same reaction you did.
Oh, my gosh.
You talk about an annoyed bunch of people, because as soon as I told it, they were all like, and then I said, it didn't happen. You know, that story, its effect on me was a little bit like the invasion from Mars, on the radio with Orson Welles.
Yeah.
Because every time I've told that story, people get mad at me. They really do. But at any rate, that's Kyle who wanted that?
Yeah. Kyle,
you got your Christmas ghost story. And then, so you'll know, this is exactly the way they're done. M.R. James wrote a bunch of these things. And if you go online, you put in a ghost story for Christmas, BBC. You have a whole bunch of these things, those sorts of things.
You played us. You were getting teary. I was looking at you. I was like, oh my gosh, this is a moment here. And Charles is crying.
Well, you remember George Burns?
Yeah, of course.
He had a great statement. Remember, I was a comedian, and I come from a family of actors.
Yeah. So
George Burns made the comment, the key to acting is sincerity. Once you can fake that, you can fake it. Gosh. Wow. No, but the truth of the matter is that when you tell a story like that, if you're a good storyteller, and I'm fairly good one, if you get into the story, I mean, mutatis mutandis, and this fits because this is a Christmas Twilight Zone. There is a Twilight Zone story for Christmas called The Changing of the Guard. I tear up every time I see that bloody thing. I tear up telling it.
Yeah.
It never happened.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's such a good story, and it touches certain realities, if you see what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that it really didn't happen, but the principles it enunciates. I mean, and to take apart the story that I just came up with for you, that I made up. And again, I made it up I didn't construct it the way I'm telling you.
Yeah.
But in looking at it and noticing how people react to it, because you're not the first one to do this, as I say. Well, the first time I told it, I had a room full of people really pissed off at me. But the reason is because it does touch certain eternal themes.
Yeah.
Which, in a sense, do happen in real life.
Yeah.
The idea of a grandfather whose love for his grandson is so great, it goes beyond the grave. Things like that have happened.
Yeah. And
even if they haven't happened quite like that, there's an appropriateness to it.
Yeah, definitely.
And also the idea of, well, Christmas magic, for want of a better word.
Yeah.
And the pathos of the son, that is the boy's father.
Yeah.
It all has a certain internal logic to it. Because you can imagine what his response would be. He wakes up his son, his father has just gotten killed. He wakes up the boy, and he's babbling about having seen his dad and seen his grandfather in Santa.
Yeah.
You can imagine what he would have been like. And then contrariwise, yelling at the kid when that's completely out of character for him.
Right.
And you can imagine what the kid's reaction would have been. Well, this is the essence, dare I say it, of good storytelling.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Now, the only story I have similar to that always gets me, like, at the heart is... I read the passage for our Lord of the Rings episode, and it's the passage where the Witch King breaks through the gate for the first time. Yeah. And there's only... I'm getting teary.
Yeah.
But Gandalf is there alone.
Yep.
And then that encounter, and then the horns of Rohan at the end.
And we'll see, and again, that's something that is not precisely that way. But there have been, throughout history, men who have stood alone at the breach against impossible, colossal odds. And there's something in that we respond to. These are, well, not to get all Jungian on you, but these are archetypes. These are, they're motifs.
Yeah.
And we respond to them because they are the epitome of the human experience. And of course, if you've had a grandfather you loved, if you have that sense of wonder, these are things we all respond to.
Yeah. Wow, that was good, Charles. Thank you for that.
Christmas magic.